I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is probably my least favorite design out of the entirety of Generation 7. I really do not like how Bruxish looks. But looking at its stats, I can't really argue with it. It's got pretty high attack, its speed is actually decent for a Generation 7 Pokemon, and apart from that, it has no real weaknesses. So, even though I gave it a hard time when it first came out, I think it could have its uses. So, it's a water psychic type Pokemon, which means that it actually has quite a few weaknesses because its two types don't do any favors for each other. So it's weak to both electric and grass from water typing and bug, ghost, and dark from the psychic typing. A Pokemon that you've probably seen a lot that runs the same typing is Slowbro, Slowking, or something similar to them. They are very bulky and they can even take super effective hits. Well, this Pokemon lacks that bulk, but it makes up for it in speed and offense. Originally, when I saw the design of this Pokemon, I thought it would be more defensive, and the Dazzling ability would be its main use, because preventing priority moves is so good on paper. But really, all of its abilities are somewhat decent, and it also gets a lot of resistances from its typing that could be useful in the meta. So, as I've said, Dazzling makes you immune to priority moves. That's great and all, but if your opponent expects that, then they just won't use them to begin with. So I was thinking Strong Jaw could actually be the best ability if you decide to run an offensive Bruxish, and we'll get to it in a moment, the different moves it gets that benefit from Strong Jaw. It also gets Wonder Skin, which is an ability that you very rarely see. And what it does is it reduces status moves against your Pokemon to 50% accuracy. So it makes them a coin toss. And really, it's only seen on Pokemon like, I think, Venomoth and Delcatty normally carry it. And Venomoth is not carrying Tinted Lens. But really, it's still a chance. It only has 50% chance of even working. But if you're trying to avoid a burn, then maybe it's worth running over Strongjaw, but I'm not sure. That's up for you to decide. I think Strongjaw is the best ability for this Pokemon overall. In doubles, maybe Dazzling would be preferred, but I think Strongjaw is definitely superior for singles. So the set that I thought of was a Life Orbed, Leftovers, or a Z Crystal carrying Bruxish. Max speed, max attack with a jolly nature, that way you can almost keep up with base 100 Pokemon. From there, I was thinking Setup would probably be the best because it has enough bulk to take at least one hit. So whether you ran Swords Dance or Bulk Up is up to you. If you ran Swords Dance, Life Orb is probably the better item. If you ran Bulk Up, Leftovers, just so you can live longer. From there, Waterfall or Aquatail are your best water type stabs. Aquatail is a bit stronger. Waterfall is guaranteed accuracy, and it has a chance to flinch, so it's really whatever you prefer. Psychic Fangs is a new attack this generation, which I assume, since the name of it is Psychic Fangs, that it will benefit from Strongjaw. Apart from that, it is a base 85 physical psychic type move that can break screens. Now, I'm not sure if you have watched any of my other videos, but a lot of the Pokemon that I've reviewed already from Generation 7 get screens. If they become common in this meta, then running a move that could break them could be the difference between a win or a loss in a lot of different situations. And aside from that, just the Psychic Stab base 85 mixed with the Strongjaw 50% boost is enough to run on this Pokemon on its own. After this, it really depends on whether you need priority or coverage. I thought that Crunch would be a good move, as well as Ice Fang, because both of them benefit from Strongjaw, and they're good at covering Pokemon that this one couldn't normally hit. Especially if it was a Bruxish versus Bruxish battle, Crunch could be very important and could actually end up turning the tides of the battle, figuratively and literally, since it's a water type. Other moves it gets, Poison Fang, although it's not run very often, could be handy if you had a problem with fairy types because you do get the Strongjaw boost. Even though it's fairly fast, Trick Room could be useful because of all the slow Pokemon in Generation 7, because there are so many of them. This Pokemon also gets screens, which are important in their own right. It gets Calm Mind, which even though its special attack and special defense are just okay, it could run Calm Mind, but its special moveset really isn't much different than its physical one. It gets moves like Scald, Ice Beam, but really the physical set seems much more natural for this Pokemon to carry. It does get Rain Dance, so if you decided to run a Rain team with some different Pokemon that could benefit from it, like Drampa with his Hurricane Surf shenanigans, then perhaps this could be the best Rain setter for you. And finally, it gets Disable, which is useful at its own time. So, why I decided to put a Z Crystal on this Pokemon was because it's going to get worn down quickly by Life Orb, and it may not be able to break through certain walls with leftovers on it. So a Z Crystal is a great median to keep your opponent guessing about what item you have, and once they bring in a Pokemon that could normally, say, take 2+2 Waterfalls or 2+1 Psychic Fangs, you suddenly pop the Z Crystal, and your moves get boosted to almost double their damage. Whether you're running Psychium Z or the Waterium Z, your Aqua Tail would be boosted to about, I believe, 175 base power. Waterfall is slightly weaker. And your Psychic Fangs would be boosted to about the same. So that would be a great way to punch through your opponent's team if they only had one wall that could prevent you from otherwise sweeping. So that's just a thought. Z Crystals may be useful for more than that, but at their base value, their base face value, that is what Z Crystals are made to do, in my opinion. Break through those Pokemon that you normally couldn't, and activate effects that you normally may not see. So, I think the Z Crystal just naturally fits on this Pokemon set. It's one of the first ones I've seen that just may need that one big attack, and that's all they'll ever need from it. But we'll just have to see how it settles in. I'm looking forward to using this Pokemon just because it's actually strong, and I'm really almost disappointed that something with such an odd design could actually be so decent.